The year is 1945. Germany lies in ruins. The war in Europe is over, but a new war is already beginning. One fought not with tanks, but with minds. Welcome back to the channel. Inside the smoking wreckage of the Third Reich, American intelligence officers uncover something extraordinary. Buried in coal mines, hidden behind false walls, stuffed into abandoned factories, thousands of documents, blueprints, research papers, the secrets of Nazi science, more advanced than anyone in Washington had imagined. And attached to those secrets, names, real people, men who had built the V-2 rocket, men who had designed jet engines decades ahead of anything America possessed, men who had worked directly or indirectly for a regime that had murdered millions. The United States government faces an impossible choice: destroy the knowledge and let it die with the ashes of the Reich, or take it. Take the scientists, take the engineers, take the men who made Hitler's war machine, and make them work for America instead. What happens next is one of the most secretive intelligence operations in American history, a program so sensitive, so politically explosive that for years the US government would deny it even existed. They called it Operation Paperclip. It began quietly, almost invisibly. American military intelligence teams moved through the ruins of Germany, racing against Soviet forces who were hunting for the exact same prize. Whoever got to the scientists would gain a decisive edge in the world that was about to emerge, a world already splitting into two rival superpowers. Somewhere in the chaos, a rise above all others: Wernher von Braun, the brilliant mind behind the V-2 rocket, the terrifying weapon that had rained down on London, killing thousands of civilians in a matter of seconds, without warning, without mercy. Von Braun surrenders to American forces in the spring of 1945, along with a group of his top engineers. On paper, they are prisoners of war, but American officials already understand something far more important. This man doesn't just know how to build weapons, he knows how to build the future. Rockets that could reach the edge of space, rockets that could one day carry satellites or warheads across continents. In the wrong hands, the technology could ignite a new kind of war. In America's hands, it could win the next one before it even started. But there's a problem. A serious one. Von Braun wasn't just a scientist working under the Nazi regime. He was a member of the Nazi Party, an officer in the SS. His rockets weren't only launched at London, they were built using slave labor at an underground factory called Mittelwerk, where thousands of concentration camp prisoners died from starvation, exhaustion, and brutal punishment. This is the truth that American officials must now confront in secret, and the decision they make will be hidden from the American public for years. President Truman had issued clear instructions: no committed Nazis, no war criminals. Anyone with a significant Nazi Party history was to be excluded from immigration to the United States. But the men running Operation Paperclip have other plans. Behind closed doors, military intelligence officers begin quietly rewriting the histories of these scientists. Party membership records are altered, backgrounds are sanitized, some files simply disappear. Men who had sworn loyalty to Adolf Hitler are transformed, on paper, into simple engineers who had no real connection to the horrors of the regime. What was hidden from the public was staggering in scale. This wasn't just a handful of scientists slipping through the cracks. Over 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians would eventually be brought to the United States under this program. Many of them with backgrounds intelligence officials knew were far darker than what appeared in their sanitized files. Somewhere in Washington,
Officials are making a calculated gamble. The war with Germany may be over, but a new and more dangerous rival is rising in the East. The Soviet Union is running its own version of this operation, hunting for the same scientists, the same secrets, the same terrifying potential. The Cold War hasn't officially begun, but in the minds of American intelligence officials, it has already started, and the first battlefield is scientific talent. Von Braun and his team are brought to a remote military installation in Texas, then later to Huntsville, Alabama. There, hidden from public scrutiny, they begin working for the United States Army, developing rocket technology that will one day evolve into America's ballistic missile program, and eventually the machines that carry American astronauts into space. But not everyone stays silent about the deal. Word begins to leak. Journalists and members of Congress start asking uncomfortable questions. How many of these men were truly just engineers? How many had blood on their hands? Jewish organizations and human rights advocates raise alarms, demanding answers about why suspected war criminals are being handed new lives, new careers, and new protection inside the United States.
The government's response is careful, calculated, and evasive. Official statements insist that only minor Nazi affiliations exist among the recruited scientists, technical party memberships, nothing more. But internal documents, kept hidden for decades, tell a very different story. Someone inside the program already knew the danger of what they were building, not just in rocket fuel and guidance systems, but in the moral compromise the country was making in total secrecy. As the years pass, the stakes only grow higher. The Soviet Union successfully tests its first atomic bomb in 1949, shocking American officials and proving that the race for scientific supremacy is far from settled. Now the pressure to accelerate American rocket and weapons technology becomes even more urgent. Operation Paperclip quietly expands. More scientists arrive. More records are adjusted. More uncomfortable truths are buried beneath the justification of national security. For the American public, none of this is visible. They see triumphant headlines about American rocket advancements. They see German-sounding names attached to extraordinary achievements in science and engineering. What they don't see are the sealed files, the redacted histories, and the quiet agreements made to keep the darkest details out of public view. It would take decades before the full truth began to surface, a truth revealing that men connected to slave labor camps and to the deaths of thousands of prisoners had been secretly protected, relocated, and rewarded by the very government that claimed to stand against everything they had done. The rockets these men built would eventually carry American astronauts to the moon. The same expertise that once powered a weapon of terror against London would one day help launch Apollo missions into the history books. But behind every triumphant launch, behind every headline celebrating American ingenuity, there remained a question that few dared to ask out loud. What price had truly been paid for that success, and how many secrets had been buried in the process, not from enemies abroad, but from the American people themselves? The truth about Operation Paperclip would remain classified for decades, its full scope only gradually emerging through declassified documents, journalist investigations, and survivor testimonies. Some called it a necessary evil, a pragmatic decision made in the shadow of an emerging Cold War. Others called it something far darker, a betrayal of the very principles America claimed to be fighting for. Perhaps the most haunting truth is this: history is rarely written by those who tell the whole story. It's written by those who decide which parts of the story the world is allowed to see. And in the case of Operation Paperclip, America made that choice in silence, a silence that would echo for generations to come.